Welcome to Geopolitics and Money. We're very excited to be with you, but we are even more excited today. We're not doing live stream. We're going to be having a great conversation with a great guest and friend of the show, none other than Lior Gantz. I'm going to have Elizabeth introduce our guest here.
Okay, so Lior, thank you for being on the show again. He is the founder of Wealth Research Group, and which is a free financial newsletter. Then the link to it is in the description box below. And apparently, this is cool. I didn't know this about you, Lior, but apparently your newsletter called gold at 5,000 an ounce and silver at 100 an ounce in 2016. So a little bit of, maybe some psychic foresight here going on in this newsletter. So guys, check it out. So Lior, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Let's dive actually into gold and silver right now, because it's a really, really hot topic. I know it feels like something crazy and chaotic and intense and world changing happens every single week, but we need to keep our eye on the prize. And I think gold and silver is one of the most important topics we could be talking about, because there's some interesting things coming. So gold and silver, what do you see coming down the pipeline? Is it the 10,000 an ounce for gold that Goldman Sachs said it might be? Is it coming back down? What is that? And then I also want to put it in the larger context of, we've sort of been following the United States potential revaluing of the price of gold. And I think that is in the US's best interest, but it's a little bit of it's like a trick, right? You still have the same amount of gold, but you're revaluing it. So all of a sudden your assets are worth a lot more. Yeah. So give me your take on it. Give me your crystal ball on it, and let's dive in.
Well, you're right about so many things happening. Like January was a great year.
No joke.
So I think first of all, gold and silver are a little different, but just to kind of start with gold, for example, we are exiting an era that started in 1993, failed in 2000, doubled down on the fail until 2008, and then collapsed. That era was the era that American elites believed that because America was the only empire left standing with the largest military, that it could absorb China and Russia into this integrated new global system, and that Russia and China and others, be it Turkey or Japan or other countries that aspire for their own versions of greatness, would stop looking for that greatness and would simply want to be part of this liberated world. It failed almost on day one with the breakout of wars in Yugoslavia. But when you feel that you are a touch away from the last war, from the last time that people need to fight over religion or over territory or over anything, because you've eliminated all the biggest problems with the Soviet Union, for example, then it's so tempting to, okay, we'll just handle this one. But then 9/11 happens, and then you're like, okay, well, what do I do now? Now it's in my home turf. What do I do? Who do I go after? And that started the delusion of the 2000s with those wars, as if the Middle East can be conquered. And of course, while this is happening, integration of China into the world system. How does all of that have to do with gold and silver? It created a dollar that is permeated throughout between adversaries, between allies, and there's no distinction between them, because if everyone holds dollars and if everyone finances your debt, who is the enemy, who's the foe, who's the adversary, etc. That system really failed in 2008, and the voter, I believed, was going to want a strong conservative leader like we have with Donald Trump. It voted the other way. It went with okay, capitalism doesn't work. America isn't special. So who offers the real change, the new spirit? Who offers to reform everything? And the big reformer came with all these grand ideas that are not part of the American society. But he gave a lot of power to the bureaucracy and a lot of power to the central banks. And central banks introduced all these new ideas that they didn't have a mandate to introduce, like zero interest rates for 8 years, QE, QT, all these things that if you have a conservative, strong president, they will not fly. But they did. And so what I thought would happen in 2008 happened in 2016. And that's why when you say he called gold 5,000 in 2016 and silver 100, it's because of that. It's because I saw that America wants to go back to being America. And of course, when America goes back to being America, then gold and silver have to go back to being constitutional money. So I think that what we really saw with the end of the first term of President Trump was this epiphany moment where America saw, wait, all of our supply chains are so vulnerable. All of our systems do not work. We're seeing a live test right now with the shutdowns, right, in 2020, and that's when Trump's team really started to think in a different form about the future of America. But he lost the elections, and so for 4 years he came up with how to come back and build it anew. And so you see that first year when he's back, it's so packed. It is so packed because he is literally trying to undo 125 years of moving in the wrong direction, with the first reformist president of 1901 with Teddy Roosevelt, and then, of course, with the change of America into Europe in 1913. Basically, with Woodrow Wilson, America stops being America and starts being the big partner of Europe for the rest of the century. It fights their wars, it helps them, and then protects them with NATO. It's not America anymore. And we are now going back to being America. So when you look at the dollar is incredibly overvalued because it is part of 60% of global transactions, even though the US is 30% of the global economy. So in my opinion, the dollar, as compared to other fiat currencies, and especially as compared to gold, will plummet. Not drastically and without control, not in a panic mode, but in the next few years, it will be almost revalued. Because what we see with Trump is that he says, hey, China and Russia, you need to be China and Russia. You don't need to be America, and we don't want you to be America. We will be America. You will be what you need to be. And the Chinese, what they really want is a stronger currency because they want to compete with the US dollar. For them to have a stronger currency, a more trustworthy currency, they have to back it with more gold, and they have to decouple it from the dollar. Effectively, nobody knows what the renminbi, what the yuan is worth. Okay? So in that process, you now have the Chinese wanting a stronger currency backed by gold, and and America wants a weaker currency. Both of these superpowers are telling you gold is going higher. The first inning was 2025 because Liberation Day showed the Chinese and the world that this president is promises made, promises kept. So if he says full-on separation, 100% tariffs, 143 at the peak, it's done. So the dollar cannot be this super reserve currency anymore. What can be the super reserve currency? Well, not any fiat currency. That means we're going back to gold. That was the first moment. So the Liberation Day was the first moment. And then the second moment was when China started to restrict rare earths and their export. That's when they took what's called soft power and turned it into real power. And that shocked the rest of the world because the rest of the world subscribed to that idea that, hey, it's made cheaper there, so we'll just do it there. There's no risk in there that they ever turn around on us. And those two things really brought gold to the forefront. And then the last thing was the silver export controls. When those happened in late December, silver went bananas. and went all the way up to 120, now trading at the mid 80s. I think we just saw the first inning of this rearrangement. Once Kevin Warsh assumes the position of Fed chairman and explains his new vision, I think that the dollar will continue its weaker policy, weaker dollar policy, and gold can actually hit 5 figures way sooner than people think. So I think that's really important to understand. We are going back to a world where gold is gold, and not something that the people laugh. Oh, you're accumulating gold. Like, are we in the Middle Ages? No, we're not in the Middle Ages. We are going back to normal. And I think that is important. And if we're talking about normal, silver, though, even the word silver means money in about 70 languages. So silver, if it is remonetized by banks, then wow, the sky's the limit for silver. It can double just on that, just on one Asian country, one African country, one Latin American country. Say, hey, we're buying silver for our central bank, and then you can only imagine what happens if they put it in their pension funds.
Well, that's very, very interesting. First of all, thank you for this historical snapshot, Lior, about understanding the link between what took place back then and what's going on today. And speaking of, we'll stay on gold for now, and I'll get back to the rare earth element later on. Regarding the gold and the silver, so if we are to look for, let's say, the outlook for the rest of the year, 2026, for these commodities, particularly gold and silver. And I know you are an investor in these two main commodities in addition to others. And when you say to yourself, is this driven by, let's say, central bank buy-in? Is this driven by geopolitical tensions? Is this driven by the inflationary betting and so forth? So how do you foresee this going forward? What do you expect for the rest of the year from an investor's perspective? What do you expect is going to keep driving this bullish outlook for gold and silver for the remaining of the year?
Well, we are in an irreversible counter-revolution in the United States. Trump is building a new world, and he has repositioned America to stop being shy of the fact that it is the best country that humanity has ever come up with. It is the best structure. From one pilgrim boat on the shores of Massachusetts 250 years ago, you have built the biggest economy, the best economy, some of the best innovations, everything. America is the best, but it needs those founding documents to be part of your culture, and those founding father figures to be part of your culture. And I think that's what he's bringing back. And you're seeing that he's inspiring some of the biggest people in the country to be part of this revolution. So with that, he's building like the Board of Peace is effectively the new UN. And that's actually his way of remaining president without being president. Because if he remains at the head of the Board of Peace until the day he dies, then you basically you have him as president. So I think that when you look at gold and silver, you just have to think in the context of, is this reversible? Are we ever going to go back to normal in terms of, and this is not normal, but are we going back to the globalized world where globalists, the CCP, the Russians, Davos, and Qatar, can these influence the United States? Can these continue to influence Harvard and Wall Street and think tanks? And the answer is no. We are definitely going the other way. The midterms are the real barometer, because if the Republicans can win the midterms, then you are on a full-blown collapse of the old system. And I think that it's so good for the world that America is back, because it allows other countries to be themselves and it stops with all the delusions that we don't talk straight to each other. Countries need to talk straight to each other. Countries have agendas. Countries have conflicts. Countries have conflicting directions. They need to sort these out, and they need a strong America to do that. So gold and silver in that playbook continue to go higher. Silver, because it's 50%. Silver is such an incredible opportunity because, and that's why when it was $12, I said it's going to 100. It's because silver's always been money, but because of the demonetization of silver, central banks were selling it all through the 80s and 90s, while the Soviet Union collapsed and flooded the markets with more supply, and it became so cheap that it found its way into thousands of industrial uses that before were too pricey for it. It's the world's best electrical conductor, so it makes sense. It's in a lot of industrial products. Now it's in 5,000 consumer and industrial products, and it's also not the primary metal in most of the mines that it's mined at. It's mostly a byproduct because it's so cheap. So that create a situation where silver, unlike gold is above ground. If you mine it, it's somewhere. It's held by your central bank, your government, or somebody. Silver, no, it's thrown. Once you throw your industrial product, it's gone. So the supply is even vanishing. And so I think that silver, if it gets remonetized, it's going to 200 or 300. It's going a lot higher. Even gold, 10,000 is. I don't think it's the end. It's the end all. It could go to 15 and 20,000. We are changing 125 years of taking a constitutional republic with a constitution that was created when people fought against the biggest military might ever and defeated it and wanted freedom. That generation gave you the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and gave you America, and you expanded and expanded and expanded into California, into Texas, into Alaska, and now you're going to expand obviously further. You will have Greenland at some point. And I believe once that's done, Canada will also be part of the United States in the next couple of decades. We are going from a world of 200 countries to much less. We're going back to probably 100 to 80 countries. 100 to 80, not 180. 100 to 80. We're going to have at the turn of the 1900, there were only 50 countries. Yeah. This idea that you're giving all this self-determination, that's a Woodrow Wilson idea. It's not real. It's fantasy. There are powers that can consolidate and assimilate under great ideas, and they need to do that. It doesn't make sense for Canada to be a standalone country in the 21st century. So, because America is just a better system, they need to be a state. Now, there's many ways to do that, but effectively, I think the United States is going to keep expanding. And keep being stronger and better. And this is great for the world. And what it seeks is allies that are also holding their own weight. America wants other allies that have strong militaries, that have private people, that have their own distinct culture, and that want to be great. The opposite of what France and England are doing right now, for example. So
yeah, they're in no shape.
Yeah. Yes, they need to regain their footing. So I think that as we look in gold and silver, most countries, most central banks, most governments will choose to go back to gold, and my prediction is silver as well, because the dollar will now serve much more to the benefit of the American people than to the benefit of a globalist system. And that means it doesn't have to be hoarded in the trillions by other foreigners. It can be financed by American pension funds. It can be financed by the government. The government itself is moving into the income side of the balance sheet. the U.S. government issues debt under the globalist system, but every other country has a sovereign wealth fund in the trillions. Why wouldn't you do that? You can have the best one. So that is part of the change. And of course, the biggest change is that America is the premium market for the world. It is the best market. And so you have to charge an entrance fee to get in. Now, every major politician that tried to do that with tariffs in a strong industry did it because he wanted to part from the British Empire. Trump is doing it because he wants to part from China and others. But look at Alexander Hamilton, Abraham Lincoln, and William McKinley, all assassinated because they tried to go away from the British
the
system.
other direction.
And of course, Trump was also assassinated. So I think we're doing that, and we will do that successfully. America needs to be the powerhouse to the world, and then it can really do so much good because it is the superior culture. It is the superior structure in terms of its rule of law, its culture, what's ingrained in the DNA of the country. And I think that is very good. We have stopped. I think we've turned the corner on collective suicide in the West, and slowly but surely we will turn the corner. And America obviously needs to be the leader.
Well, so I want to kind of dive in a little bit more to a bunch of stuff you said. So the first part of it is, we're talking about the strong dollar, weak dollar, because this is a really big topic that I feel like not enough people are talking about, because the Trump administration at the very beginning came out with the Mar-a-Lago Accord. And the Mar-a-Lago Accord basically was like, hey, we want to bring manufacturing back to the United States. But we can't do that because our labor is too expensive. The dollar is overinflated. To be honest, I think it's overinflated. And so they were like, well, we need to weaken the dollar. But I've seen over and over again in interviews, President Trump coming out and saying, no, we want a strong dollar. We want a strong dollar. And I'm like, bro, you don't want a strong dollar. Like you said straight up, you don't want a strong dollar. And this is why you said you don't want a strong dollar. But as a lot of that manufacturing, so some manufacturing has come back to the United States. But I don't think with AI, I don't think manufacturing is going to look the same as it did, right? We're not looking at thousands of workers on, manufacturing lines here in the United States. It's not, at least in my observation, it's not going to look like that. So what is sort of the reality of a strong dollar versus a weak dollar? And what is the importance of having a strong dollar versus having a weak dollar? And China kept its currency artificially weak. But they did that while they became the world's manufacturing hub. So there was a reason for that. But as the dollar gets weaker, so it's a difference in like China came from a really bad spot, right? Like they were in massive poverty. They were in a horrible spot. So keeping their currency weak wasn't that big of a, it wasn't a giant decline. For the United States, when we get a weak dollar, that's a decline for the United States, right? It is in a sense, and it isn't if it actually does bring manufacturing back and all of that. But, the United States, Americans have been used to having whatever it is that they wanted very cheaply. The problem is that is now becoming less and less the case. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. So I kind of want your take on that, because it is flat out quality of life for Americans, for average people.
Yeah, you asked a lot. I want to kind of be I understand, and I'm going to answer in an elaborate fashion. But it's very important to understand the difference between a weaker dollar and weaker purchasing power. They're not the same. So, in the past half a century, Americans have basically peaked and then declined in purchasing power because you've effectively given up your industry to and then in accelerated fashion. That
that's
you
that's
double
true,
down on that.
Lior.
So now, what that did was it created a situation where your purchasing power, even in your own currency, in other words, domestically, declined substantially.
Right.
So what used to, with $10,000, you can't buy what you could have bought with $10,000 before.
Yeah.
That is a diminishing quality of life, not because of a weak currency, but because of inflated currency. At the same time as lower productivity.
Yeah, for sure.
If you increase productivity, which is what the Trump administration is doing, and you increase salaries, then if the dollar diminishes in power compared to other fiat currencies, it doesn't change anything for you. Your purchasing power will actually increase. If your salaries go up and the government opens up from very regulated environments to deregulated environments with new housing codes, where millions of new houses can come to the market and lower and lower housing prices, with better mortgage terms, with opening up the banking sector to local banks doing what they need to do locally, and I can go on. If fiscal policy, which is unending, you can the government has unimaginable creativity that it can unleash, then
if it so chooses.
Correct. This is all if you have great people in government.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
If that continues, if you have people the caliber of Besant and Lutnick and Doug Burgum, and I can go on and on, your salaries go up, productivity goes up, prices come down, and now even if the dollar diminishes compared to gold or compared to Swiss francs or euros or whatever, you don't see it. When you go on vacation for 1 week a year, you do see it, but the rest of the time you are much richer than before. So that is the opposite of what you had in the last 50 years, where you had diminishing productivity, so stagnating salaries, and the products came from abroad and all the time more expensive. And regulation strangled the housing market, so housing became more expensive. And you didn't have a corporate ladder to climb, so your salaries became stagnated. And now you have a whole slew of Americans, I would guess tens of millions of Americans, that say capitalism doesn't work, when what they really mean is my globalist elite politicians failed me.
Yeah.
But they don't understand it. So what they need is to be back in the American system. So the Trump accounts, which put money in your account at birth and put you in the stock market at birth, that is the first step. Now you need Americans to own America, own land in America, own properties in America. You need that to come back. Then you need to give them training and jobs. That's all coming. So,
well, hold on. I'm gonna stop there because I want you to speak to this, because I do think AI is going to change the landscape of jobs. Do you still think with AI the way that it is, that it's going to bring a lot of jobs back? Because like you hear Elon Musk talking about universal basic income, and there's a lot of talk about that. So I think any financial conversation has to include AI. Thoughts on that?
For sure. AI, first of all, America is the absolute leader in AI, and along with China. But AI is not it ends some professions, and it will create an abundance of new professions. Just like there used to be a person inside of every elevator.
Right.
Okay, or 10 tellers at a bank. So it's human ingenuity is and it's not going away. But yeah, the job market is about to have an industrial revolution. Okay, so Europe was 98% agricultural before the industrial revolution, and then so you are going to see in the next 10, 15 years something that you've never seen before. That is 100% true.
Yeah.
But the system that is most ready for that is the American system. It is just the best system. When applied right, it is the best system. So I do think that America is ready for that. And I do think your GDP is going to, you will be shocked at GDP this year. You'll be shocked. And then you'll be more shocked when your new Fed chair doesn't put on the brakes. Once GDP is 4 and 5 and 6 and 7% GDP, 7%, like post World War II GDP.
Yeah, that, I mean,
Like
I
China
hope you're
GDP.
right. Let's be real. I hope you're right, because that would
I am
make
right.
it a lot better.
I am right. And once Kevin Warsh assumes his position as chairman, then I think you will see that he will talk about the fact that when salaries go up, you don't raise interest rates like a globalist elite, because the money's flowing from Wall Street to Main Street. That doesn't create inflation. That's Bernanke, Yellen, Powell talk. Oh,
Yeah.
salary's coming up. Okay, the people are making too much money. I'm gonna hit the brakes on this. Interest rates are gonna stay low. Interest rates are going to work on the same logic as favored nations. You heard about favored nations with drug prices? That is the same logic with interest rates. What Trump did was he said, okay, why are we paying so much more than any other country for our drug prices? Who is the country with the lowest prices? I want to match that. But to make you companies whole, I'm going to renegotiate with all these other countries, because we're only 5% of the global population. We will make you whole with the other 95%. With interest rates, the logic makes the same sense. We are the best economy in the world, with the best military, with the best industry. Why do we need to finance our government at a higher interest rate than all these other 199 countries that have
For sure.
inferior system to us? So interest rates are going to come down big, and the market is just it is not grasping how much of a mythic figure this person is, and how much this administration is dead set on achieving what they are telling you. So I think that is going to shock America, and you will see people for the first time in many years seeing real wages and real quality of life and real purchasing power go up. Now, you said about Trump that he wants a stronger dollar, weaker dollar. He flips up.
It
He
keeps
does not.
back and forth. I'm like, brah, pick one.
Okay, so
Stronger or weaker, pick one.
Okay. So to be accurate,
What
Trump wants is a weaker dollar. He has not said he wants a strong dollar at all. What he has said was that if the BRICS countries unite and attempt to create a reserve currency, he will tariff them at 100%. He wants to keep the reserve currency status, but he doesn't want a stronger dollar. In fact, when asked nonchalantly and officially, he answered it beautifully. He said, all politicians say that they want a stronger currency, but what you really want is a competitive currency. So
I would agree with that.
Okay, you have Stephen Myron already at the Fed. You will have Kevin Warsh soon. Kevin Warsh and Scott Bessent sat next to each other under their mentor Stanley Druckenmiller, who also believes that the Fed should be, a tenth of the size that it is right now, with a tenth of the mandate, and we're going to see big changes. If your listeners want to take an hour and listen to the Davos speech from Jameson Greer, the trade representative, then they would really understand the scope of what I'm telling you. But we are in a counter-revolution in America, and it's inspiring to other allies that are strong and willing to build a new West, because the new West is not Europe and the United States automatically. The new West is countries that want to be great and that hold their own weight and that are free societies. Okay, so that's where you're seeing the sifting through. He's seeing, okay, are you with me or are you not with me? And countries where he sees that the majority is with him, but the elites are controlling politics, like in England or in France, where the Macron has a 15 or 16% approval rating. Keith Starmer has 8% approval rating. Saddam Hussein had better ones. So these countries, just like the Davos and the globalists infiltrated their textbooks and really changed textbooks. The Trump administration is not going to do that, but it's going to do the same thing. It will take conservative values and finance think tanks within these countries because the majority in those countries want to be conservative and want Christianity back, family values, etc. But they just don't have the right leader to come up yet. So I do think that we should not underestimate that. The dollar is going to be weaker, but it will not lose its reserve currency at all. The dollar is the best currency, but it is grossly abused by these other countries that keep buying the debt. So what needs to happen is through a combination of tariffs and other reforms, gold is going to regain its footing as the ultimate international currency, and the U.S. dollar will start working for the American people and not for the global elites.
Well, I'm a huge fan of that. I'm a huge fan of working for the American people and not the global elites anymore. I think through everything that's come out, it's become very, very clear how embedded the global elites are in just about every government, and just how much of what we've been living through my entire generation and David's, for forever, has been global elite agenda versus actually public servants taking care of their people.
I agree. From 1901, basically.
Yeah. So much longer than any of us have been here.
Yeah.
We were born into that system.
Correct.
Well, I'm sure the community will really find your insights, Lior, very, very informative and insightful, because there are people now that gotta be thinking in terms of what lies ahead, moving forward, financially speaking. So, I want to turn to addressing the rare earth elements. It's something that I've been keeping an eye on. Of course, I'm sure everybody knows the link between rare earth elements and what's going on the global level, economically and politically speaking. So we're looking at the demand for rare earth elements based on some reading that I did. That's going to be about 6 or 7 or even 8 folds by 2040. And the demand for specifically some key elements, mainly for the EVs and for the wind turbine and so forth. In your opinion, Lior, what is going to be the primary demand drivers expected to push the rare earth elements into some sort of higher margins of the market or the global market? That is, let's say by 2030 or 2035.
Well, the rare earths, their unique characteristic is their high melting points and then their magnetic abilities. Some of them are irreplaceable, especially in aerospace, defense, space, very critical for AI. So they will continue to be very important for the 21st century and specific industries. What happened with rare earths is that China became basically the only major player, except for a few specific minerals that are also mined in Rwanda or Congo, and one that's mined 92% of the global supply by one company out of Brazil. 92%. So with Project Volt and with the critical minerals ministerial that we saw last week from with Rubio and Vance and David Copley, America is basically using rare earths because that's the one that China was exposed on, because they really threatened the world with big bans. So the U.S. was able to rally many of the world's biggest economies and just countries that feel vulnerable to China into building a new framework for rare earths, including establishing price floors and everything else in case China wants to dump inventory to the market. What America is basically doing is taking rare earths and using that as the platform to rearrange supply chains of minerals in general, and then it will probably extrapolate from that to other supply chains, not just for commodities. It is basically using the hot button, which is rare earth, for every other country right now, and becoming a leader at that. They're saying, hey, we will profit, you will profit, together we will profit from this, instead of being beholden to China. That model is over. That's why China also needs a very strong currency, because it's turning in. It needs its consumer to have more money, because they need to spend. The average Chinese is about $15,000 in GDP per capita, not like in America where it's 55 or 60,000. So they need to turn in. Anyways, rare earths, they're not that rare at all.
Yeah.
The problem is that China uses dumping into the market in order to scare enterprises from doing that. If you need to build a mine and your CFO is looking at a 20-year chart of the price going forward and needs to compute everything, and then China comes in and dumps a huge amount of it into the market, it kills your business model. And that is what happened with many rare earths around the world. And of course, China uses other leverages with weaker countries, where it tells them, hey, we'll stop funding you, we'll stop loans, we'll stop the 5G infrastructure, we'll stop the roads we've been building, et cetera, et cetera. So the U.S. can take the lead here and say, okay, we are not like China. We will not do that. We will make this work for everybody. So that model is going to take away from China's power, and it's going to bring power back to the United States. Just like you saw with Venezuela. A lot of people thought, hey, it's about oil, or it is about oil, but it's not about stealing oil. It is about actually liberating oil, because under Maduro, only 6% of Venezuela's oil was being pumped out of the ground. And with 1970s or 1980s infrastructure, now you're going to have a win-win. So the idea is we have a better system, because we can do this better and integrate you better. And that's how America now is going to become the leader in critical minerals, and whoever comes with it will benefit from that. And the real big change is that America is not this hey, why don't you come under my wing and I'll finance this, I'll take care of all the problems, I'll do this for you. No. This is your role, this is your role, this is your role. We're all going to benefit together, but everyone has a job here. Everybody needs to come to the table with something. That is the big change that Trump is bringing into the world scene. He's telling its allies, we are done doing this for you. You know, NATO, for example. We're done financing NATO. You finance NATO.
Fantastic.
We're an ocean away. Yes. So it's the same with everything else. He's showing you the platform. You want in? Fine. You don't want in? You want to go with China? They'll eat you alive, but you do that. You go ahead and do that, and we'll see if the voter effectively chooses to continue to vote for you. That's basically his message to the Carney right around the border. He's telling the Canadians, you're doing deal with China, no problem. But once you're done doing that deal with China, to bring that manufacturing, to bring that product into the United States where you really need to sell it, I'm going to put 100% tariff on you. So doing deals with China doesn't work for you guys. You need to come back to us and do business with us. So I think that is the real change that he's bringing, and also to rare earths.
So give me a little bit of what you think, because, you know, the United States has been offshoring manufacturing and processing of rare earths and even purchasing of rare earths to China for decades. And I mean, I think anybody I remember while it was happening, people were like, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. Duh. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But they did it anyway. And so they absolutely hollowed out, like we were talking about before, they absolutely hollowed out a lot of very critical industries. And I think I don't know if they didn't know that critical minerals were going to be so important in the future. I don't know what that was. But now we're facing a situation where even when the United States is very clearly making a push to reshore, or at least find alternate sources for these minerals, there's still the processing as a problem, right? So China holds, I think it's like 90% of processing power for rare
Yes.
earths still,
Yes.
because and not only that, they hold the proprietary technology to do it. So that's overall a problem that's not like a 3 to 4 year fix, right? That's
Yes.
not something that Trump is going to be able to
It's
fix.
probably a 4 or 5 year fix, but yes,
So
you
what?
will change it
Yeah. So that's really my question, is like, what do you see sort of the
in
overall
the interim.
plan? Because you do know a lot about this. I mean, you're very much a
Well,
subject matter expert in this way. So what do you see that reshoring effort really being, and what can we expect?
sure. So obviously, processing, refining, everything else, it's either going to be done in America or using American allies, probably a combination of both. In the interim, Trump is going to continue to use the most powerful weapon that he has, and that is tariffs, in order to combat China. Look, China needs the revenue. It's not like China can just threaten and then actually do something crazy. They have to sell the rare earths, otherwise, because it's not that they mine all the rare earths; they refine and process them. So
Yeah.
the countries that actually mine them can say, okay, well, we're not shipping to you guys. We rather build our own capacity, which is not going to be good, ideal for the world in large, but there are remedies here. So it's important to keep that in mind. China doesn't hold the world on in this big stranglehold if you have powerful leaders on the other side. I do think that America is going to continue to build processing capacity and refining capacity, but it's very important to kind of step back a second and realize that Trump's ultimate goal is not to fight with China. Not at all. What Trump really wants is denuclearization. And in order to bring President Xi and President Putin to the table and agree with them that us three, we're spending trillions of dollars on defense, militarizing, etc., etc. We also have thousands of nuclear bombs. What are we going to do with all of them? Like, what is the purpose of all of them? And if he can create, like his mentor Ronald Reagan, if he can create a denuclearization program, that to him is the crown jewel of his legacy to humanity and to the world. That is what he really wants. That's the pinnacle. And in order to do that, he does not want to fight with China for the sake of fighting. This is not a Cold War situation with China. What he wants is for China to prosper in a way that doesn't eat up the United States. That is his ultimate goal. China to prosper on its own with the limits of no access to the open seas. In other words, being contained by the first island chain and dealing with what it's had to historically deal with, and for the United States to retain military might over the open seas. But apart from that, what the Trump administration really wants is for China to prosper and for America to prosper together. So I think that don't look at it from the perspective of, okay, this is going to be a mad rush to try to beat the Chinese. If he needs to use tariffs or other leverage means, he will. Sure. But it is not his goal. It is almost as if you can think about it like two brothers running a family business, but they don't get along, and sometimes they fight like hell, but they're running the same business. So China and the United States.
Yeah, can you say a little bit more about that? Because that's, I think, the first time I've heard anybody say something like that about the relationship between China and the United States.
It's not just China. It's China. It's Russia. It's Turkey. Sure. It's all of these countries that it's Brazil. America does not look to conquer these countries or to weaken them into submission or to do any of that. What America was built on is freedom in this hemisphere, and it has nothing to do with these cultures and nothing to do with these other countries. The problem became when they wanted to integrate and influence the United States and take your wealth. The U.S. middle class is the real wealth of the world. Okay,
it was.
Hopefully
it will be again.
It still is. The baby boomer generation is the wealthiest generation of human beings ever. So if whatever you can take from them, that has always been. Look, there is no other country in the world that's formed on the basis of what the United States of America is formed at civilly. Just like there's no other country. Well, I don't want to be controversial to the audience, but I'll leave it at that. So for the rest of the world, or for other leaders, the United States is always going to be the threat because it offers their citizens sovereignty over their lives, where no other country offers that constitutionally. So it's always a threat to other countries, but it doesn't have to be a military threat or other types of threat. The United States does not want war at its core. When you have mediocre leaders or leaders that don't know how to do it the right way, then you get it. You get it, but you don't get it because the American system is bad. It's because that particular leader is not good. So at the end of the day, I think Trump doesn't look at Russia or at China as countries that he wants to defeat. He looks at history and he goes to first principles. It's very important to understand Trump thinking. Trump thinking is, tell me about China. Literally, that is, bring the China expert to the room, and he tells him, tell me about China. He doesn't tell him anything specific. Tell me about China. Tell me about it. What do you know about it? What works for them? What doesn't? What has been their experience over thousands of years? Tell me about them. Same thing about the Russians, and he forms this idea that of what's called the mega trend, and the mega trend is what he believes the ultimate direction is of that particular country. Okay, for the Middle East, for example, if you ask Trump, what is the Middle East for you? He will tell you it's the interstate, the highway that connects Asia to Europe. That to him is how he wants the Middle East to be. Okay, so everything is a derivative of that. With Russia, what does he say about Russia? He says Russia is a war machine. Like a million people have died. Do you see anything about a million people have died? Have you seen one single funeral or anything? Have you realize what a million people dead on the fields is?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. I mean,
you don't see it. Where do you see it? Yeah. Where do you see it? It's okay.
It's awful.
And because I know he keeps saying it. He keeps saying 5,000 people a week. So to him, Russia is that, and therefore he thinks in that regard. Same thing with China. He looks at first principles and he finds that mega trend, and he thinks that mega trend is the way that he should think about that country, and he thinks about America that it's the best, and therefore he protects it like it's the best. He has to go all in. So I think that is why he's so special, because once he purifies the megatrend in his mind, then he never changes that. Greenland needs to be part of America. That is a megatrend for him. Okay, that's it. It will not change. It will not change. It will be part of America, because that's his game theory. Promises made, promises kept. So I think that you need to really think in that regard. that his ultimate goal is a strong America, peace through strength, a strong America, so you don't have to use your military that much at all, because the strength comes from the projection of
Power.
if I threaten you, it's coming. Like the night that Maduro of absolute resolve, Maduro was told, "You have a ticket to Turkey, you can go, but this is the last chance for you." And Maduro was like, "Okay, well, yeah, last chance. I've seen American presidents before. Okay, last chance, fine." He did not know that last chance really meant last chance. And I think that even Americans don't understand that. How many times did Trump talk about Liberation Day, April 2nd? Tariffs are coming. Reciprocal tariffs are coming. They're coming. No, they're coming. They're coming. Like any Wall Street firm could have called the White House and, hey, give me Scott Bessent. What is Liberation Day? But on Liberation Day, what happened to the markets? They went crazy because they did not believe it's actually going to happen. And it's with a lot of these things. So I think that is what you really need to think. He wants to make a safer world, and you only can make a safer world if you don't appease, if you stand your ground, because that shows the other side the price. And if you don't show the other side the price, then you become like a Neville Chamberlain who came from his meeting with Hitler, and he was like, here's the peace agreement with Hitler, 1938. So that is effectively what I'm trying to get at. If these other countries can prosper, then they should prosper. America will not defeat them. It does have its limits. Because obviously you cannot prosper over my prosperity. America is first. So that creates that beautiful relationship where you know the limits between us and you. And I think that's where the world is going to. The world is going to a much better place, a much safer place than we had. Globalization is a delusion. It's a fantasy. We were saved when they changed Biden to Kamala and made it even easier on the voters to think.
That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. I can't even believe they did that. That was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we are coming here at the top of the hour, so
well,
if you haven't guessed it, I like Trump. If you haven't guessed it, I like Trump.
No, you're entitled to your opinion, of course. What I was going to say, do you have anything else, Elizabeth, before I'll ask last question?
Well, David, do you want to ask a last question, or do you want to ask how about you ask your last question and then
you go ahead. You go ahead. Okay. You go ahead. I'll close it up later on.
The thing that we sort of always finish off with is, what do you think is the most important thing that our viewers should know right now to sort of take care of themselves as the world changes around them? Because it is unquestionable that there are big changes happening every freaking week. Something new is happening, and it's hard to navigate the world the way that it is right now. It's hard to predict what's coming if you haven't studied it. But you were talking about cycles earlier, Lior, and that just I'm a big Ray Dalio fan. I've read all of his books. And I've read Generations, I've read The Fourth Turning, and I very much ascribe to everything in this world has cycles. Everything. I mean, if you look at our seasons, if you look at the human lifespan and the whole thing, there's different seasons to everything. And just because we haven't lived through this before doesn't mean that it hasn't happened before. So what wisdom, what do you think our viewers really need to know that will really make their lives easier and better as all of these transitions happen, because they are very intense and they are happening rapid fire right now? So what wisdom could you give our viewers?
I think that America's decline has bottomed on November 5th, 2024, and that America's back. And this is probably the best time to be an American ever. Now, I think that that there will continue to be strong, progressive areas in America that will not change anymore. They are. It's part of their culture. They are. They will just not be as American as the first Americans. They will be a lot more blue and progressive, and I don't think that will change. California, New York, Oregon, etc. But for the heart of the country, if you are starting out or in the middle of your career or wherever you are in life in America, right now starts a real golden age in America. And if you can just jump on that train instead of looking at that train, I think that this is going to be a very wealthy generation of Americans that that comes in the next 25 years, because the golden goose that lays eggs is America. It will continue to be America. And now you have the system coming back. You have very capable people in government. You don't have politicians, career politicians in this administration. You have real people, real business people in your administration. Very capable, perhaps the most capable government you've ever had. And I really do think that Americans don't understand what $18 trillion worth of foreign investments in America means. And it will start to come in this year. I think you will see a tariff dividend. I think you will see even less income tax, and a real revolution, a real going back to the best time in American history, which was post the Civil War. Between 1870 and 1901, that 30-year span, you were the richest and you're wealthiest. You didn't have any income tax. You had a bunch of tariffs, and what you really had was so much philanthropy, so much of it. And you're seeing it all already with Michael Dell and many others that will come. And just look at some of these people. Scott Bessent was running the world's biggest hedge fund. Now he's the Treasury Secretary. He gave up a lot of money to do this. And of course, Trump doesn't take a salary. And I can name like Doug Bergram and others. These are people that took like the biggest pay cuts in history to be part of government. That is the founding fathers' playbook. The founding fathers were not career politicians. They came to Washington, did their work, went back to their plantation or whatever they were doing. This is real governance. This is coming from the people to Washington, back to your real life. And I think that is really should encourage every American. There's the mother load is still ahead. The mother load is still ahead for America. So your best practice, your most important thing is how do you jump on that train instead of just looking at that train. And that will come down to networks, education, and really like just personal initiative, because it will have to come down to you jumping on that train in some sort of fashion. You have to get in there. You have to be part of this. So that means you have to do it. Like you have to, if you're not on it, get on it. You have to figure this out. So I think that it will get easier to get on it. That is really the change that I'm trying to portray to your people. That the wealth inequality that Ray Dalio talks about, the income inequality, the inability to jump from one quadrant to another, from poverty to from rags to riches, that will come back and be part of your story. So that really is a very encouraging message that I have for Americans.
Well, on that note, Lior, we really can't thank you enough, man, for sharing your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom, and truly understanding where the world is headed. And for our community, I'm sure, especially whether you are here in the US or elsewhere in the world, whatever Lior talks about doesn't impact just Americans, doesn't impact just those who live in whatever part. It's for everybody on this planet.